Okay, guys, today we are going to look at some vocabulary. This is about simplifying variable expressions. Oops, I just noticed we're missing an A right here. So we're going to be looking at simplifying variable expressions, also known as algebraic expressions. Okay, variables we know are letters that represent a number. So when we have an expression that has a variable, we can call it also algebraic expressions. So in order to do this, we are going to look at some vocabulary. The first thing we have, well, first of all, let's write down the date. Friday the 16th, so 10/16. And let's start with the vocabulary. It says, the first one, it says, use this variable expression to answer the following questions. This, as you can see, is an expression. It is not an equation. If it would say use this variable equation, a variable equation should look like this. 3a equals 12. That's why it's called equation. But this is an expression. An expression is like a statement. It doesn't, a mathematical statement, it doesn't have an equal sign. Okay? So the first question is, number one, name the four terms in this variable expression. Well, we haven't even talked about what are terms. So if we look at this expression, can we guess? Anybody could guess what would be the four terms? It says that there are four terms. Right here, they're telling us there are four terms. So I don't know. What do you guys think? It could be the x's, the y, and the 6 by itself. I've heard lots of things like 7, 4, 3, and 6, just the numbers. Well, now let me tell you what terms are. In English, we have words. So I can say, for example, if I say, my name is Tina. How many words are here? We know there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And how do we know that? Because each word is separated by the other word with a space in between. In mathematics, we separate the terms with the plus or the minus, okay? Or the multiplication or division. We do the operation symbol. So right here we have 7x. That's the first one. The next one is 4x. I'm not writing the plus because when it's positive, we don't write the plus. The next one is 3y. And the last one, be careful here, is -6. If it's a negative, you must write the negative sign. We have talked about negative in front of a number. Some people think, oh my gosh, is this a takeaway? Is this a minus? Is this a negative? Is this a difference? Call it any way you want. It's all that. It's a -6, it's a -6, it's a takeaway 6, okay? So those are the four terms. Now looking at the four terms, now it says which two terms are alike. In other words, which ones do they look alike? And they're saying there's only two of them. Which two terms are alike and why? Well, if I'm going to look at similarities, the 7x, the 4x, and the 3y are positive, but it says which two terms are alike. So that doesn't help. So the only thing that I see in common between two of them is the x. These two terms, we call them like terms, okay? So 7x and 4x are like, and this is how we write it, like dash terms, okay? 7x and 4x are like terms. Now, why? And we're gonna say because they have the same variable. We don't call it letters, but you know they're letters that represents numbers. Variable. So 7x and 4x are like terms because they have the same variable. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Next question says, which term is constant? Remember that terms are like what we did in number 1. All these are the terms, there are 4. Which term is constant? Constant means that the number doesn't change. Well, if it's not gonna change, another word for change is vary, right? When something varies, it changes. The weather varies, the weather change. So right here, we're looking at the one that is not going to vary, it's not gonna change. If it's not gonna vary, then it's not gonna have a variable. Therefore, the only one is -6. It will not change. -6 is always gonna be -6 because it doesn't have a variable next to it to be multiplied by. Next question. What is the coefficient of 7x, of 4x, and of 3y? Here, the key word you need to remember is coefficient. Coefficient. Co, the prefix co means next to, like the pilot and the co-pilot sits next to the pilot, just like that. Okay, so coefficient is the number that stands next to the variable. We usually put it in the very front. So the coefficient of 7x is 7, the coefficient of 4x is 4, and the coefficient of 3y is 3. Now that we know that, we can answer what is a coefficient? A coefficient, okay, I'm gonna wait for you to make sure you're writing this in your packet. Write it in your packet, please. We are on page, I forgot what page was it, 30. Page 51. I'm going to write it down here. This is page 51 on your packet. All right, so hopefully you had enough time to copy that. So a coefficient is the number that stands in front of a variable. A number that stands in front of a variable. That means that number multiplies whatever the variable is. So make sure you understand, if you have, let's say, 2x, okay? And if x equals 3, this doesn't mean 23, okay? This is not 2 and 3. It's 2 times 3, which is 6. The 2, the number in front of the variable, is called coefficient. Remember that. Co, next to. Co-pilot, next to the pilot. Okay? My co-worker is the one that works next to me or with me. All right, so hopefully we got some good vocabulary words here. Terms are the words in English. We separate them with plus or minus, times or division. The terms could be positive or negative. Terms could also be just a number. It could also have a variable, okay? It's just it's part of the expression that's separated with the operation symbol. Okay, when the term shares the exact same variable, we call them like terms because they look alike. They have something in common. The one that does not have a variable, that is by itself, is called constant. Constant is another word for the same. Okay, it's always the same. Okay, and the last one we say coefficient is the number that stands in front of the variable. So the coefficient of 7x is 7, coefficient of 4x is 4, coefficient of 3y is 3. All right, so I'm gonna stop right now the video, and then we're gonna go over some questions. Please have your notes handy, and I'm gonna ask you to answer some questions as a classwork.